Well, I'm excited about this next fella. I don't know him very well either, but I did also get to hear him share his story, and his name is Jaired, and he's got a powerful, powerful testimony, and I'm excited because it's not like your run-of-the-mill story that we always broadcast in a church setting. So I'm excited. Without further ado, Mr. Jaired, would you come on up? Come on, give it up for Jaired. Come on.
Good morning, man. How's it going? Well, my name is Jaired King. I'm 31 years old, and I worship and serve at First Baptist Church of Jonesboro in Jonesboro, Georgia. So I'm going to open up with a quick word of prayer, and we'll get started. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, I give thanks to you today for everything you've brought me through. I pray that as I describe where I was, how I got there, and where I'm at now, that they're able to see you all along the way. In your name I pray. Amen. All right, would you mind putting the picture up for me? So this was me roughly 3 years ago. So how did I get there? But more importantly, how did I get here? Well, my story starts out with my father abandoning my mother, brother, and I when I was roughly 2.5 years old. So growing up, I did not have that full-time fatherly figure. I did have three male role models, though, my grandfather and two uncles. But my grandfather was more interested in his girlfriend's family than he was his own, so I hardly ever saw him. But he did come around when I was old enough to help him with yard work, with moving heavy things. You know, when I became useful to him is really when I got to see him. My youngest uncle was just 17 years old when I was born, just a kid himself. Wasn't really around for all of the heavy, hard things, but he was always up for a party and a good time and had the funniest jokes. But my oldest uncle was the guy I looked up to. He was my idol. He could fix anything. All right, you guys remember the old Ghostbusters theme song? Well, when there's something broken and you can't afford to fix it, who are you going to call? Uncle Trey. So whenever Uncle Trey would come over and fix things, I was always shadowing him. I was always holding the light. I was always asking him questions. And he even let me sometimes fix whatever it was broken, with his supervision, of course. But I remember one evening while we were spending the night at his house, as we often did growing up, we were watching old home movies. And it was of my 5th birthday. There was a bad storm outside, and the lights flickered, and there I am, center screen, making one of those faces that every 5-year-old does when the lights go out. And I remember him pausing it, making a couple jokes like he always does. He's funny. But then I remember him saying, okay, let's find something more interesting to watch. And he fast forwards the video. And I remember just thinking to myself, man, my idol, the guy that I look up to, just said I wasn't worth his time. Home life was chaos. My mother moved us in with my grandmother after my mom and dad divorced, and they were always fighting, and they still fight to this day. I remember that my brother and I would split up. Hey, you go take grandma, you go take mom. Let's see if we can, end this fight in the early rounds and go home early. Sometimes it would work, sometimes it didn't. But I remember one evening that it turned physical. I just remember I was probably 7 years old, and I see my mother bending my grandmother over the sink, yelling and screaming in her face. Not knowing what to do. I mean, I'm 7 years old. That was pretty traumatic in my mind. But also at home, my younger brother was my bully. He was a lot more aggressive than I am. And whenever things weren't going his way, if we were playing a video game and I was winning, he would beat the snot out of me. When he was having a bad day, I was his favorite punching bag. And also, he was in the advanced classes growing up, all the AP honors classes. School came very easy to him. And he never let me forget it because I had to work for every single thing that I ever wanted in school. And speaking of school, I was heavily bullied there. I was severely overweight. I was blessed with dyslexia, so I always had to go to the smaller classes whenever reading and language arts subjects were coming up. And I was just different, you know. I mean, I think I was one of 4 white kids in my classroom. So I was a very easy target, had low self-esteem, and never fought back whenever I was being bullied. Church. Church, unfortunately, was not something we went to very often. But when we did go, it was mostly for Easter and Christmas services, but mainly whenever a family member was performing in them and we were supporting them. In the 7th grade, my mother started dating a man who attended a Catholic church. He, of course, invited us to church. We went. Shortly after, my mom decided that she wanted to join the church. And so she did. She took the necessary classes that was required to join. And soon after, my brother and I followed suit. We went through the class. We were baptized to join the church, Little C. And I mostly remember just being able to go up and drink from a cup and eat a piece of bread during service. That was mainly what I got out of that. In the 10th grade, my aunt got me sponsored to go to a week-long trip in Florida. And so as I went on this trip, the youth pastor at the time was my room leader. So he and I connected pretty well. And when we returned back from the trip, I remember I would go and seek him out whenever I would go and attend church. He encouraged me to join the praise band. I played the bass clarinet, so nothing cool. But I would always just, every time I saw him, I would connect with him. But I remember the one time I showed up, he wasn't there. He had been let go for crossing the line with a female student, and I never heard from him again. So fast forward some time. I'm roughly 21. I've graduated high school, and I finally got a full-time job with my current company. I'm working second shift. And this is really where my weight skyrocketed because I'm at the airport. I'm in a little dungeon area. I mean, there's nothing to do but eat and watch movies and handle some customers every once in a while. And I remember I was there. I was probably 23 years old. I went to the doctor. And the doctor told me, hey, you have high blood pressure. It was 165 over 100. Your BMI is 54.8, so I'm mainly fat at this point. And I'm pre-diabetic. If I don't make some changes now, I'm not going to see the age of 30. So he says, I'm going to put you on some medication. We're going to talk about some healthy eating options, and you need to start working out about 30 minutes a day. Well, guys, I wasn't going to take medicine. That's for old people. I'm 23 years old. No, that's not something I was going to do. So I decided I would lose weight on my own. So I joined Weight Watchers and joined a gym. Everything I would lose doing Weight Watchers and working out in the gym, I would gain back that plus some as I would fall off the train. I remember I finally convinced a friend of mine to join the gym with me. And we would go pretty often, but it eventually turned into going to Taco Bell and going to the gym parking lot and eating it and leaving. So we never actually went in the gym. Yeah. And so I continued on that path for 2 years. And on my 25th birthday, I remember waking up. I had nothing going for me. I had a crap job. I am severely overweight. I am pre-diabetic. I'm heading down the path of death. And I'm just thinking to myself, why do I want to continue down this path? And so I looked by my bedside table where I kept my pistol and thought, man, I can end it now. Put it to my head, don't have to worry about this life anymore. But something told me, no, just continue on the path. Just continue trying. So for 2 more years, I tried to lose weight on my own, failing every single time. In February of 2017, roughly around today's date, I found myself in yet another doctor's office. But this doctor's office was unlike any other. This doctor specialized in bariatric surgery. I was desperate at this point. And I remember him coming in, telling me all the information I already knew, but adding in that, hey, you are 200 pounds overweight. And that really hit me. That really hit me hard. He says, look, I'm going to go get a pamphlet and let's talk about your options. And I remember when he left, I'm ridden with anxiety. My leg is bouncing. My hands are sweaty. I am, freaking out. Not even low key. I was almost hyperventilating. And I remember just praying to Jesus for the first time, a genuine prayer. Telling him, hey, I can't do this on my own. I can't make this decision. I can't continue on this life anymore. And like I said, it was the first time I ever prayed genuinely. I didn't pray for hey, let me make all the lights heading to work. Let me pass this test I never studied for. No. I prayed for help. I prayed because I couldn't do this. And I just remember an overwhelming peace fell upon me as I finished the prayer. And so I didn't know then, but what I know now is that was Jesus calming my storm. Just like he did in Matthew 8, verses 23 through 27, when he's on the boat with the disciples and a massive storm comes in and he calms it for them. Later on that year, in May of 2017, my grandfather passed away. He was 220 pounds, 6'2", had just had his 17th heart stent put in, and he's also type 2 diabetic. And that was the path I was heading down. He was 80, and I probably wouldn't have made it to 80 years old if I didn't make some choices that I had to make. On September 9th, I began a 3-day liquid diet. It had to be clear liquids. So bone broth, sugar-free drinks, all of that good stuff. And I remember on the last day before surgery, a massive storm rolled through. Had a lot of, I believe there was a cluster of tornadoes that came through. And I remember just thinking, man, they're going to cancel this surgery. The lights are going to go out. I might as well go eat something. I'm pretty hungry. And as I'm heading to the pantry, I just remember feeling convicted. Something told me, no, stay the course. This is what you've got to do. And so I didn't eat. I instead got me a cup, got me some juice, and went to bed. And the next day I woke up and I drove myself to the surgical center with my family. My storm is still calm. I enter in both waiting rooms before heading into the operating room, and my storm is still calm. And I remember switching tables in 3, 2, 1. Fast forward about 10 months, I'm in a lot better place physically and emotionally. I've lost roughly 130 pounds by this point. And I remember reconnecting with my cousin for her 21st birthday. I invited her out, and she invited me to a young adults gathering at the church that I attended all the Easter and Christmas services, as well as the week-long Daytona trip. And I remember sitting there listening. I'm like, hey, that kind of resonates. I was thinking about that the other day. I'm being spoken to and not even really realizing it. And so I enjoyed it, and I decided that I would continue on and attend some more services. From there, it led to a weekly Bible study. And at this point, I'm finally actively listening and learning. And I remember asking the leader of the class, hey, how can I strengthen my walk with Jesus? He's like, well, do you come to church on Sunday mornings? No. All right, we'll start there. And so in 2019, I started attending church services by myself, sitting in the auditorium by myself, going to my age group Bible study in the mornings. And later on, I'm like, hey, I still want to, strengthen my walk with Jesus. How can I do this? And I remember him saying, well, do you serve? No. He's like, okay, well, let's start serving. So I started serving. I'm attending church by myself, attending all these classes by myself. And I remember one evening as I'm serving at the very youth ministry that I attended I attended that week-long Daytona trip on, I told him, I was like, hey, man, I still want to strengthen my walk with Jesus. And he said to me, okay, well, I know of a men's retreat that you can go on that should, really show you how to be a Christian and really just lead you on, get you on the right path to strengthening your walk with Jesus. And I remember thinking, it's a men's retreat, so I've got to spend the night with a bunch of dudes, and I couldn't take my cell phone. I didn't know about that life. But I prayed on it, and after much conversation and prayer, I decided I would go. And it was 4 days before my 30th birthday was when this trip was. And the day before, and that's where I really surrendered my life to Jesus. Okay, that's where the day before a birthday that I was not guaranteed to see, I essentially died to self. So the doctors were right, essentially. But guys, for majority of my life, I would turn to food for comfort instead of Jesus. But food only provided a moment of relief. But as I look back on my life and see just how faithful Jesus was and has been to me, I am now committed to being as faithful to him. And just like in Philippians 4, verses 6 and 7, where Paul writes about not being anxious, but praying and petitioning to God in every situation, allowing his peace to fall on us, I now, instead of taking my anxieties to food, take them to him. And I am now learning to find my identity in the Creator instead of the created. So how's life different for me now? Well, I found a church that I absolutely love. I've been blessed with a church family that has accepted me and allows me to sit with them every day. My mother has started attending church with me. I was baptized last year. Taking it into work, I have received the highest rating that I ever received at work. But not because I was doing any better work. I mean, I was, but my boss said to me, he's like, man, I don't know what the change is in you, but the way you treat people, the way you carry and conduct yourself is completely different than how it's ever been. At the gym, I actively work out now. On Wednesdays, I encourage and ask for worship music so we can have a workout and worship Wednesday. And I even have some gym mates coming up to me and asking, hey, will you pray for me? It's an unspoken prayer, but please just add it to your prayer list. And so, guys, I add it. We even talk about some scriptures sometimes. But I'm a firm believer that prayer changes everything. Okay? Because my entire life changed with one prayer. So thank you for letting me share.